I want to take us on a roller coaster. So everybody lock in. I've got a little bit of a theme for us. Okay. So first, I want to start off with this TikTok, no sound because it's copyrighted. It says, just because you don't require much doesn't mean you deserve the bare minimum, you dumb bitch. Now, dumb bitch is only for the girlies and the gays and non-misogynistic. It is not for men to use that term towards women. But it's meant to say, I love you. Just because you require little doesn't mean you deserve the bare minimum. What is the bare minimum? The bare minimum is the starting point of basic requirements in order to then move into a relationship of some kind and or a relationship with a person, a job, a friend. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, look at this TikTok here. Let's use this TikTok to start the conversation off today. Okay, here we go.
Your 20s, let's all be very aware that there is an immense pressure that somehow society has put on all of us to have your entire life figured out between the ages of 18 and 21, and it is a completely unreasonable expectation, and it is the reason why so many people in their 20s are horrifically depressed and feel lost, because they feel as though they are already supposed to have figured it out. But there is so much to experience and to understand and to grow with, and to like make mistakes you're going to learn from, to come into your own as an artist, to come into yourself and to understand and accept and love yourself. And like the fact that we put this pressure on people that they're supposed to be successful by the age of 25 is so unreasonable, and I think actually does tremendous harm to people's self-esteem and to their self-worth. And if we reframed the context of the world in which we live as you are just continuing to grow, there's not an expiration on the possibility of your success, I think people would be able to have a lot more grace and understanding for themselves and where they're at that current moment in their life. You are in your 20s.
Okay, what do you guys think? Some of you say, I don't agree. What don't you agree with? Let me listen to this again, just the beginning.
Let's all be very aware that there is an immense pressure that somehow society has put on all of us to have your entire life figured out.
Yeah. What do you guys disagree with? I'm confused. Do you not come from this bubble where they expect you to have your life together by 18 to 21? That was definitely my bubble. They fully expected you to have your shit together. 100%. Like your values, your life, your future, 100% there was that expectation. That's why I'm considered a late bloomer. Because like that is the expectation I was born into, right? Do you guys disagree with that? Are you not born into that bubble? Let me know. I'm so curious. You said, no one expected me to, but I did. Interesting. Some of you are agreeing. You said people expect 21-year-olds to have their life together, ? I guess that's not my bubble. 100%. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's what you do with your life. Let's see. I agree with that. That's definitely my bubble. Is it a religious thing? No, even my friends that were secular had the same expectation, but we also grew up in bubbles with high expectations. You know, not even mid to high expectations. They weren't even the highest expectations. But yeah, they did kind of expect you to have it figured out, you know? Let me see. Because you either choose to go into college or into job, and you kind of have to know the direction you're going into, right? Right? You said that was my bubble. I had a mental health spiral in my mid-20s and didn't recover until I was 30. Yeah, that's why I think people have the midlife crisis in their 20s. It's because for a lot of us, like, I was expected to know. Like, they were like, you remember how my brown brother always asks me, like, why can you figure it out young? Because he did. By the time he was 21, he was making really good money. He was married, and boom, they're 10 years into their marriage with 5 kids. You know, they're really successful. They have a house. He makes over 6 figures a year, well over 6 figures a year, high school graduate, very established. And he's looking at me like, why didn't you figure it out sooner? And a big part of it is because he was born into the most perfect bubble for him. Like, my brother's still Catholic. He's homeschooling his kids. He's having that farm life. He's basically found his niche and stayed with it. Versus I quit jobs, moved states, broke up, had relationships, tried to figure out who I was, had mental health stuff. Like, I didn't go into college right away. My other siblings went into college right away, got their degrees, went into the military, focused on work. Like, a lot of people, other siblings, not so much. Other siblings were late bloomers too. They're still figuring it out for sure. But the expectation for the oldest millennials were definitely like have your shit figured out ASAP. And then if you didn't, you were kind of a failure, right? Like the fact that we might have reached 25 without a house or marriage was like, I remember my friend was in the Midwest and she was teaching a class and she was 25 and the little girl said, "Why aren't you married?" And she said, "What?" She goes, "Why aren't you married?" She goes, "I'm 25." And she goes, "Okay." And like people get married at 25 here, you know, and that's the expectation of the bubble. So yeah, my bubble was definitely there where like they had an expectation that like, okay, what are you doing after high school? What are you doing? You know, you're 25. Why don't you? Well, that's why they say stop saying 21-year-old is a kid, because in their mind, you should have it figured out by 21, which obviously I don't agree with. And I think has changed. I think it's obvious that your 20s are sort of for figuring out your life. And for some of us, we're going to need all of our 20s to figure it out. And for other people, they'll need less of their 20s to figure it out. But I think the new normal is just being very patient and understanding that some of us really need our 20s to know who we're going to be. You know, like what's our goal and how are we going to make it happen, right? Now, and this is something that I think is interesting. It plays very heavily into dating culture. You know, oh my God, did you see my last video that I made a clip of about the MAGA guys and women realizing they're losers? Guys, go read the comments on that video and you'll know what I mean when I say like, this is not my audience. Like you can tell these people don't watch me. There were people who were like, you know how I was commenting on nose rings and how you can't always tell what a person thinks by their nose ring? They were literally like, well, maybe that's your problem. You're judging a book by its cover. I'm an anarchist and I would never do that. Or I'm a liberal and I would never do that. You're such a liberal. You're such a liberal. And I was like, who are these people fighting my video? And then it was like MAGA people and then liberal men in my comments being like, well, I'm a liberal man and I don't even like MAGA and I'm still struggling to date. And I was like, who are these people? I don't know what happened, but honestly, I'll take it because girl needs to get paid. So I'll take it, girl, because I don't know why the algorithm loves it when I talk about MAGA and dating, but I'm going to start going for it because I need to pay these bills. Okay. But okay. So this plays into dating. Look at this video here. Let's go on an adventure. Look at this video here.
Almost 8 years, and we're starting to see a pattern in a lot of our my husband and I have been married almost 8 years, and we're starting to see a pattern in a lot of our peers who've been married 7+ years, and that the woman seems to be outgrowing the man. And what do I mean by that? I mean, a lot of women are doing a lot of personal work. They're going to therapy. They're unpacking and healing from a lot of baggage or trauma from their childhood or past relationships. They're becoming more self-aware. They're understanding their attachment styles and their communication patterns and why they are the way that they are, and growing and changing and evolving. And the men just aren't doing that work. They are growing financially or in their career because that's what they've been trained and conditioned to do, to provide. But they're not doing anything else. They're not going to therapy by themselves. And if they're going to couples therapy, she dragged his butt there. She found the therapist. She made the appointment. She reminded him a million times it was happening, and he just goes to appease her, not to actually be vulnerable and work on stuff, but just to try to like make her happy so that she'll chill out. And it is so sad to see because you can literally see it happening. You can see her growing and changing as a person, and he's totally fine being the way that he is. He's totally fine not peeling back those layers and working.
So many of my girlfriends who got married young, about 5 to 7 years into their marriage, they got divorced because of exactly this reason. The girl was, you know, wanted a higher education, wanted a better job, wanted to volunteer, wanted to do different things. And the husband wanted to be a sitcom husband who came home from work, popped open a beer, and put his feet up on the table. Both are valid. By the way, I think both are valid, but they're not necessarily complementary. And if you don't want the dumb husband trope, like, tee-hee, my husband's so stupid, tee-hee, then you definitely want to divorce because you can't stay married to somebody you think is stupid. I think like if you are married to somebody you don't think is smart, you're in a bad marriage. And I think it's bad for them and you, and it's not fair, you know? My partner and I just did this like relationship quiz by that therapist guy on TikTok. I always forget his name. And he asked like, who do you think is the prettier or smarter one in the relationship? And my partner and I really practice radical honesty. And we both, you know, I was like, I already have my answer. What's your answer? And I can always tell when my partner and I are like being, you know, maybe as like groundedly honest, like let's say we give the like political answer. I'm like, no, political answer, give the real answer. And we do that too. And we're like, okay. And it was a good answer. I'm really happy with the answer because it feels accurate. Because again, when I ask this question, it's not an emotional question. I'm not looking for emotional reassurance. I'm looking for analytical ability. And if my partner isn't analytical, I can't trust them in my mind to have a relationship with me in which we can see things for what they are, separate from the way that we feel about them or think about them, but rather what they are. Now, again, we engage emotionally and analytically. So if I look at my partner and I say, analytically, are we growing apart because I'm going in this direction, you're going in this? I expect at this point for the conversation to bring us back together. I expect my partner to say, oh, you're correct. It looks like we're growing apart. Okay, let's bring it back together because that happens. And that's why in our marriage, we are actively intending to grow in the same direction because we are not special. We could be just like any other couple that grows apart. Just because we're high compatibility does not mean we don't have to work on the relationship or work in the same direction, right? So that 7-year mark is where the marriage can either break off or not break off, right? That's usually for a lot of couples the time, that they're like, I've been with you too long,
Through that emotional, vulnerable stuff, right? He's like, he doesn't want to do that, and he's totally fine not doing it. But as she grows and changes, she has a desire to connect on a deeper level with her partner. She craves that, but you can't if they haven't done the work as well. And so there's this disconnect, and that causes problems in the relationship. And she essentially at some point realizes she has 3 choices if her partner is not going to change, is not going to do the work. She can either settle and be content and realize that he's never going to change, he's never going to grow, he's never going to do any personal work on himself or become self-aware in any of those ways. Like, he'll grow in his career, he'll grow financially, but as a person in every other way, that's not happening. Okay, so she can find a way to be content with that and not have resentment, or she can try to force him to change for the rest of their life. She can try to
oof. So you either settle, which most people do, or you can fight it out to the day you die. Girl, I'm not doing either. Okay. Discourse said, is there a scientific explanation for the 7-year thing? No, it's from my understanding, there is a pattern people have noticed, but I have also looked into it and I have not found any actual scientific data to back it up. But it seems to be a pattern that couples last between 3 to 5 to 7 years. And they say if you can make it past 7, you'll make it to 14. And if you can make it to 14, you'll probably make it forever. I think that's how it goes, right? There's these patterns, but I don't think any of it. Did I say 6, 7? 6, 7, 6, 7? I didn't, I don't know if that's true. I just know that when I've looked it up, it seems to be something people say. Now, what I did when I read this initially is I went to my mother and I said, tell me about your marriage. What were you guys doing at 7 years? What were you doing at 14 years? What were you doing at 21 years? And right away, when my mom started to think back, she started laughing. Her face got all happy. She started reminiscing. She was like, oh my gosh, we were doing this. We had this many kids. Oh, this was a tough year, but we did this. She started reminiscing. It was a fond memory to look back at what were you guys doing 7 years into marriage? It was a fun for her. Now, when I ask other couples, and that's the thing, I go, what were you guys doing 14 years into marriage? Depending on how people answer that question, right? And that's why people, I think, can make it all the way to 25 years and then get divorced is depending on what they were doing for those 25 years. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting.
Pull him along the growth journey and force and prod and get him and try to convince him to do it, which obviously causes a lot of problems. Or she can leave and she can try to find someone who is on her level, try to find someone who is willing to do the work, who is more her equal. And it is just sad to see from an outside perspective how common this is. And then it just makes you realize unfortunately, how rare it is to find a man who is willing to unpack things and do the inner work and work on themselves and figure out why they are the way that they are and whether or not they want to stay that way, or if they want to improve their communication patterns or their habits or their attachment styles or the way that they handle conflict. If they are going to, it's pretty rare to find a man who is willing to be vulnerable and emotional and communicate that and learn and grow with their partner with those more sensitive interpersonal things. And it's just unfortunate. And I think it probably contributes to the male loneliness epidemic that's happening, because women are like, I want a partner who will grow with me through every stage of life. I want a partner who's willing to evolve and to change. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of men aren't.
Totally. And, I think a big part of it is probably going to be what they've seen around them as well. Because around you people have been settling, then it might be, that might play a role in it, I suppose, right? So, one of the things I take into consideration is like, so my longest adult relationship in my 20s was on again, off again. So I don't even know how to count that relationship, right? But I say it's 5 years long because the storm, like the whole thing was 5 years. It was like what a time in my life. I'm further away from it every year I grow, which is great. But it is my only and longest relationship, which is not my only, sorry, my longest relationship past 2 years. And it's not even that good of a metric of like a relationship in a sense. But now I got with my partner, we started dating in 2022. So in a year, 2 years here, like I'll have been in the longest relationship ever that I've ever had, right? And this is interesting to me. Like this metric is interesting for my own life where I'm like, oh, like eventually you will be my longest relationship. And the way that I compare it to say that I've learned, the way that I compare it is like my 20s relationship. When I look back on it, it was so obvious that like it was bad. Now, I do believe, and I strongly believe this, that had I been with a high compatibility partner then, we probably would have been okay. I also believe that I had compatibility partner at the time would have also had a lot of problems. We would have had to do the work to grow in a certain direction. But I was working through stuff, but I was like a pretty okay person with like a lot of flaws, but I was really damaged. But I was like pretty stable at the same time. It was very confusing. Where it's interesting because at the time, more stable people were interested in me, but I was so unstable. Like I kept choosing the less stable people, but those more stable people were also not, I was not attracted to them or wanted them. So it didn't make sense to me, right? Now in my 30s, I can compare our relationship and say, the same amount of time I've had with you that I had with any past relationship has been smoother in every way possible in comparison to this thing. So there's also that part of it where like, you can't just, date the healthier person. You also have to be attracted to them. You can't just date or marry this person. You also have to like them. You can't just like, because sometimes people will say, oh, this person is so nice. They're going to treat you so well. Why don't you date them instead? I'm not attracted to them. I'm not physically attracted to them. I'm not emotionally attracted to them. So then what happens is you get physically, emotionally attracted to a toxic partner, and then the relationship goes from there. And then you justify the toxicity because you're attracted. And my whole thing moving into my 30s was, even though I'm attracted, it doesn't mean I'm going to pick you. Versus in my 20s, I thought first you start with attraction and then you move into dating. But I did it in reverse, where it was like, am I attracted to you as a person before I'm attracted to you as a sexual body or that kind of a feeling, that pull towards you, right? Okay, next video. This is interesting. So this video is a male friend breakup. And I want to talk about this because it all works together. Remember that this man is going to date somebody, right? And I've been through this breakup a couple times with male friends, and it's really interesting. Check this out.
With my guy best friend of 13 years. I just had a friendship breakup with my guy best friend of 13 years, and our friendship ended in a 16-minute phone call. I just spent like the last 30 minutes crying about it, so let's debrief. It's the year 2025, and I can't support a man that treats women like shit.
Amen.
I noticed that the past several times I spoke with my friend, I either was really frustrated with the way he was talking to me, or I left the conversation feeling like shit or upset that he thinks or treats women this way. So I texted him tonight and I was just like, I really want to have a conversation with you. Like, let me know if you're free tonight. And he texted like an hour later being like, yeah, I'm free. Give me a call. Called him. I said, hey, I just wanted to talk because the last several times we've talked, I have left the conversation feeling really bad, or my feelings had been hurt. And I want to talk to you about it because we've been friends for 13 years. And I shouldn't feel like this talking to my best friend. And it really all boils down to, I mean, he genuinely does not respect women. His words and actions show that he thinks that men are better than women and that women are less than. And like, if you know me, couldn't disagree more. And it really had gotten to the point, and I said this to him, like, where we're at, like if I met you on the street today, I wouldn't want to be your friend. And that's really hard because we have a lot of history and I love you and like I love our friendship in certain aspects, but like I don't want to feel like hurt or like shit after talking to a friend. We went back and forth, obviously not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it, but literally after talking for 10 minutes maybe, I asked him a question being like, you seriously think XYZ? And I could tell he was distracted and he goes, wait, sorry, I'm applying to jobs right now. Like what? I'm literally sobbing, mind you. I'm crying on the phone being like, I can't believe this is where we're at. Is this really how you think about a certain scenario? And he's like, sorry, can you repeat that? And I'm like, Exhibit A, you don't give a fuck about women. I'm objectively someone important in your life and you don't even give a fuck that I'm calling you, telling you that I'm upset. Like, huh? I just reiterate, like, I don't know how to move forward because I just feel really hurt. I don't want to lose our friendship, but like, this is just tough. And he goes, all right, you know what, Taylor? Maybe it'll just be easier if we just cut ties and go our own separate ways.
Damn, bro.
And I was just like, okay. And I hung up. And that's that. And he's stubborn and I'm stubborn and I know he will not reach out to me. And I'm certainly not going to. Like, that was crazy. Mind you, this entire conversation, frustration, and buildup stems from me recognizing and calling out that he's treating the women in his life like absolute dog shit. And also the way he talks to me about dating and how women in their 30s should be dating and acting. Like, it's literally so warped and so fucked. I just had a friendship break.
Okay, so a few things stand out to me. One, she's probably 21, 22, right? She's like young, so they probably knew each other literally through middle school and kids, right? So maybe their friendship was naturally going to break up anyways. But not surprised that after 13 years, it maybe came to this head, right? She can't be that old. So that happened. Okay. Two, I've had the same conversation with much older friends or with men in their like almost 40s or even older, where, you know, it takes a while to realize, because you meet a friend, right? You meet a friend, you're having a good conversation with them. There's a vibe. You guys are having so much fun. You think they're progressive. And then you realize over time, like, wait a second. And by the way, this isn't that abnormal. Hold on, let me see. Chat's saying, no, she must be older. I don't know. Is she? Maybe she's like older. I don't know how old she would be. 21, 28, 23. Either way, they were together as teens, right? Probably. I don't know. I don't know how old she is. I don't see an age here. But either way, she's not my age. I doubt it, right? But, you know, okay, so I've had this conversation with men. It takes a while to realize it because, like, people really tell you stories. There were people I knew that I used to be friends with who were, like, quote, so progressive. And all these years later, I hear from, like, mutuals that are like, oh, they took, like, a weird turn. I was like, well, I broke up my friendship with them, like, 4 years ago over this thing here. And they're like, oh, shit, like, that makes so much sense because, like, now they're doing this shit here. And it's like, what it usually comes down to is a stubbornness, is like a, I don't want to work on this. It's like a, I'm not going to change. And it's like, hey, I'm coming to you with something. And by the way, this is not gender specific. Yes, it's happened with men more than it's happened with girls. But like at the end of the day, like women also, I've had these conversations with women where it's like, hey, is this it? Like, is this the end of our friendship? You know what I mean? Like, you're not deconstructing, you're not introspecting, you're not, and again, it's always why. It's not, I'm not saying you have to come to the same conclusion I came to. I'm saying, do you know where you're coming from with this thing you're interested in or in this thing you're doing, right? She was willing to talk to him and say, do you know where you're coming from? And by the way, his willingness to just cut off the friendship is not that surprising, but the thing that stands out to me is the end when she says we're both stubborn, we're not going to reach out to each other. It's not about stubbornness. That's a personality trait, though it could play a role. It's about the reality that, like, is it good for us to do this? Like, as an example, I have a no chasing rule. If you expect me to chase you, I'm not going to do it. I never chase after anybody, okay? friendships, anybody. You know the rules. I'm always available. I'm not going to chase you. And I definitely had like a person in my life at one point who was one of those people who really romanticized being chased as a friend. They'd be like, well, you should chase people you love. And I was like, no, I'm not a runner. I didn't sign up for this marathon. I'm not chasing nobody. And they said, well, if you really love somebody, you chase them. And I said, no. And then they one time threw like a similar tantrum at me where like I was calling them out for misogyny and in a loving way, like, hey bro, I think you're kind of fucked up, you know? And it became a, you know, I'm gonna block you without telling you, or I'm gonna block you and be like, oh, you're just in a bad place right now. I had a friend literally block me and I didn't know, like a close friend. And then I went to go message them and I was like, hey dude, I'm blocked. What the fuck? And they're like, I just needed a break from you. And I was like, what are you, 5? Are you 15 years old? You were too goddamn old to pre-block me. What are you, 10? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, are you a child? You're pre-blocking, you're adult, and they're like, I'm in my 30s. What are you pre-blocking me for? You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like, what is this thing that we're living? Like, what is this like bubble we're living in where like you have the audacity to think you're more mature when you're pre-blocking your friends instead of having conversations with them? What? Okay, now this plays into the reality that those men are dating people. Like, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. Those people are dating people, okay? Those people are going around talking about how much they love women and respect women, or how much they're happy to pay for women's meals. Those are men in the dating market. Those are men who are your friends. They're men who are your family, right? Okay, next thing I want to show you. Oh, hold on. Chess says, does that mean people have to chase you? Chase me? No. Do not chase. Nobody be chasing nobody. Right? I don't want anyone to chase anybody. We're adults. God, this isn't some emo novel or song. We're adults. No chasing. Chasing means that I'm doing this. I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm busy. Don't message me right now. And then they go, oh, come on, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you. Let me in, knocking on your door. Like, what am I, in my 20s? Pre-therapy? What am I, literally 23-year-old Brittany before therapy? No. Look, Brittany in her 20s, okay, would have definitely, like, you know, maybe engaged in some toxic chasing behavior. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody right now, but you secretly want attention, but you don't know how to ask for it. Go to therapy. We can't be doing this in our 30s and 40s, girls, okay? And that's the question. Like, we can't be doing it. We shouldn't even be doing it in our 20s, but I understand. I didn't have therapy till I was 28, right? So, like, I hear you. But when we don't have the tools, there's, like, the healthy ideal doesn't involve chasing, okay? Just say what you want. Say, like, hey, you know, I love you. I need more attention. Hey, I want to negotiate more attention. Are you available? And then you have to accept a no as well. Because, you know, relationships end, they should end naturally if it's time. But, you know, when you sit there and you try to figure out, like, why did the relationship end? Sometimes it's just because it was natural and it outgrew it and it made sense. Sometimes it is because of one particular person over another. And sometimes it's just like, we're not agreeing. You know what I mean? Like, we're not agreeing on how to move forward. So it is what it is. But it's when people want to blame, like, who's at fault for the friend breakup. To be honest, like, or the romantic breakup. To be fair, I think you could figure that out. But also, you can't, without blaming people, you can't avoid the breakup if the person who's unethical isn't going to change. So, like, even my brothers that I don't talk to right now, I told them, I am not going to talk to you and pretend everything's normal. But when you're ready, I'm never going to block you. Message me. But because I called them out on shitty behavior, they feel attacked and they're like, fuck you. Why do you think you get to lecture me? And who do you think you are? Like, you're not my mom. I'm not your mom. I'm your sister. And that's exactly my role in your life, is to remind you that I used to change your diapers. Okay. Well, maybe not all their diapers. Some of them are a little too old for that to have happened. But you know what I mean? Like, hello? And same goes for my male friends or any of my friends, especially if you're inner circle. I love you. But out of all the people in your life who's going to hold you accountable, it's got to be me. If not me, who? Right? Like, who else is supposed to do this? A stranger? Someone more casually connected to you? If not your inner circle, who? And it's this idea that, like, oh, I'm going to bury a body for you. I'm not going to bury shit for you. Okay, now, That's the friendship and the friendship model, but it overlaps with the romantic model. Yes? Now, let's go back into the romantic model and listen to this woman here.
My marriage that ended up being a really crucial downfall. One of the biggest imbalances in my marriage that ended up being a really crucial downfall to our relationship was I came to our marriage with the relational skill of being able to meet a need that I didn't fully understand and meet a need that I didn't actually have. Contrary, my partner did not have that skill. In order to meet a need or even be open to meeting a need, he had to fully understand it or have the need himself to justify why that need should be met. As a result, when I was speaking up throughout our marriage, bringing things to him, needs for our family or needs for myself as an individual, to communicate about them, he would negate them or dismiss them if I couldn't subsequently make a full legal case as to why that need would be important, or even why I think it should be important to him. Like if I couldn't get him to grasp why he might find it important. But it was a two-part labor. I had to find the exact right words to communicate the need, and then I had to find the exact right case. I had to make a case for it in order for him to listen. And if I couldn't make the case adequately, he would dismiss it. On the other hand, I came to our relationship willing and ready to meet the needs of people I loved. And the only ticket for admission for me to meet their needs was that I loved them. They didn't need to justify themselves. I didn't need to have that need personally. I didn't need someone to even fully explain it to me about why it was a need. If I could see for them that this is a need to this person, I would happily or joyfully meet that need if it was within my capacities to do so. This isn't to say I did that perfect all the time. Absolutely not. But once again, to the best of my ability, I would try.
Okay, pause right there. So as an autistic brain, when I first heard this, I got a little confused because I was like, uh-oh, wait. I do need you to explain it to me. But then I realized what she means. So if you're autistic like I am, and you were like, wait, I don't think she's talking about you literally being like, oh, why do I need to do that? The same way like you would ask a teacher, but why am I doing this? Because you literally don't know. I think she's saying she's saying to even have the ability to recognize they need something is important. Like if my partner needs something specific to them that I do not understand, I will say something like, okay, I don't know exactly why you need me to do this, but I'll do it. But you're going to have to explain it to me until I get it. Because if I don't get it, then I'm going to struggle to be more empathetic. And I will say that. Like I will say that I will physically struggle, emotionally struggle to embody a deep empathy for you if I don't understand why I'm doing it, but I will do it, but I don't get it, right? And that's because the same way that I would ask teachers, but why am I doing this? And they would think I'm being combative. I just literally don't know why I'm doing this. And if I don't know why I'm doing this, I'm going to have a problem. Her partner sounds more like a man weaponizing, if I'm correct, if he's not autistic and it's genuinely not like, because even if he was autistic, he'd be kind about it. He sounds like a man who's like, why? Why do I have to do that? Sounds gay, bro. Sounds stupid, right? He sounds like he's demeaning her, which is different than a guy's like, wait, why am I doing this? Wait, I don't get it. Like he's not using kind language. There's not a communication. And by the way, my partner does the same thing where it's like, hey, I'm struggling to feel very empathetic right now. Can we talk about it? Because, sometimes you ever have a friend who's really going through it, but you're not there right now. Like, do you ever have a friend who comes to you crying, but you cannot meet their emotional needs? You're just like, yeah, I'm not the friend for this right now. Sometimes that's truly my experience where I know you're really going through it right now and you need something, you got to go to a different friend. Same thing. My sibling I was just talking to my sibling about this the other day where they're like, remember when you called me and I couldn't be there for you? And I was like, yeah, that's okay. I went to a different friend. Because the truth is not everybody can be there when just because we're breaking down doesn't mean they can be there for us. And that's the other part of this, part that's so difficult is like, when do you know your friend is struggling to be there? Now, okay, bringing this back to the friend dynamic, I had a friend dynamic in which this friend wanted to always be there for me when things were wrong, to the point where after too long, they built an entitlement around being there for me, where I thought it was just an organic desire to be there for me, which I think part of it definitely was. It also made them feel like I had to do the same back for them, but I couldn't. And when I couldn't, they said I was a bad friend, which really even though it would come at the expense of my mental health. So I was like, uh-oh. And I don't mean this literally. I mean, I had hoped that they had built a network of enough people that they could go to other people to help. Or at some point I said, maybe you should try therapy because I think you're coming to me for things I can't help you with. And they were like, I can't believe I can't believe that's your suggestion. And I'm like, they're like, and they're like, I'm always there. I'm always there. I get that you're always there, but I thought you were always there for me because you could be, not because it was coming at the expense. And they're like, no, it wasn't. I wanted to be there. And I'm like, okay, but I want to be there for you, but I can't. And they're like, but why can't you? And I was like, so here's what you need me to do, and here's what I'm capable of doing. And I feel like you're coming to the wrong person. Can't you talk to your partner about this? Or can't you talk to your friends about your other friends about this? And they're like, no, I want to talk to you about it. And I was like, what's happening? What are you doing? You literally have a partner. Go to your partner. And they're just like, but it has, like, I want it to be you. And I'm like, and it felt overwhelming. Like, it felt genuinely like I am so deeply confused about what's happening right now. And again, it became this line in the sand of, I think in some ways they felt like I was replacing maybe our connection with my now partner in a sense, or maybe like they felt like you used to come to me and now you don't come to me anymore. But it's like, we're friends, And then I've had friendships where there's like this, when you're single with your girlfriends, you can go out with them every night. And then you get a baby or you get married and you can't do that. They're like, you changed. Bro, I literally had a baby. I pushed a human being out of my body. Or babe, I literally got married. What are you talking about? And it's like they expect you to be the same person. People who grow with you in a direction include your friends. They have to grow with you and see the changes in your life. And the way we were before cannot be the way we are now. So friendships and romantic relationships are the same. You have to grow together in a direction. And if you don't, you grow apart and the relationship naturally ends. And a big part of that comes from seeing the other person and also like being able to see the limitations of that person, right? Okay, now finishing up this TikTok.
Wildly unequal labor between us. I was constantly, if I had a need, having to know in advance that if I didn't want this need dismissed out of hand, which was painful to begin with. It's really painful to have someone tell you that they love you and then just dismiss you. But I started to work really hard on, okay, if I'm going to bring this need forward, I have to, like a lawyer prepares for a case. I knew I needed to bring evidence. I needed to have
that's too much work.
Perhaps even.
So that's too much work,
like sources to justify why this was important. And then even more painfully, after all of that, I knew it would still be just like a court case. He was going to be the defense, constantly putting me on the stand and interrogating me about why this was important. And if I couldn't lay out the evidence, he would still dismiss it. There was like nothing more demoralizing and painful to sit there and try to have to beg to have your own humanity seen in a place where
that's really fucked up.
There's a person claiming to love you more than they love anything else, which he would do. He's like, I love you more than anything else. And then within a day, we'd have one of these discussions where I'm sitting here laying out my court case and having him say like, denied. Big discussions we're having on our pages is so many men will come into our comment sections and be like, well, women just need to say what they need. They need to speak up for themselves. And what would often happen in our marriage was I would speak up for myself to the degree to which I was capable of it. And if I had the energy, I would try to make the court case for it. But when our kids were little in particular, I didn't have the time or energy to make a case. And so I would speak up, but if I hadn't justified myself just right, he would dismiss it and dismiss it as if I almost hadn't really brought it up. Because
see, this is abuse. Like to me, if this was my marriage, this would be abuse and I would have to get divorced. And I think she is. I think this is post-divorce, right? Like she's talking past tense. This is abuse in my marriage. This is not acceptable.
If I hadn't adequately made the case, then he would act as if it hadn't been brought up at all. Well, you didn't make the case, so yeah, I didn't meet your need, but that's on you. That's on you that I didn't meet your need, and you really didn't bring it up appropriately.
Yeah, it's
in
a
the
game.
Exact way I needed to hear it.
He's playing a game with her.
So that's on you that your needs aren't getting met. If you want to be in a loving, healthy relationship of any kind, a friendship, if you want to be a good parent, a good child, a good husband, a good partner, you need to be able to have the relational skill of meeting a need that you don't have and you may not even understand.
I agree to an extent. I would just say that as an autistic person, I hear that very differently than I think a neurotypical hears that. Because for neurodivergent brains, you might think to yourself, like, how am I supposed to meet a need that I don't understand? I don't get it. Like that. So I just wanted to use this as an example of why, as an autistic brain, I hear that it sounds so confusing. But what I'm trying to say is put into practice. It's okay to then say, I don't understand why I'm doing this. Can you please help me understand? And then you have to be open to understanding it. The difference is her ex-husband or her ex-partner was not interested in understanding it. He did zero work trying to understand it, right? So, okay. right? Good example of like how language can really change the way we think about things. And then we take advice from the internet and we think about having a conversation. Like, this is why right away when I watch a video and I feel myself getting defensive, like, or you know what's worse? Okay, autistic confession here. How many times have you watched a video and identified with the bad guy in the story because you can relate it to something you experience, and then you start to internalize that you're either a bad guy or those people aren't as bad as they are, and then you make excuses for bad people in your life because you feel like, well, I've done something similar. Girl, story of my life. Story of my life. You know, I have to fight. This is how I know I'm autistic too, is like, this is my life where I have made so many excuses for bad people's behavior because I'm like, oh, I can see why you did that. Like, this is kind of like this. And so like, that's why I like using these TikToks to kind of explain it to you guys, because right away when I heard her, I was kind of like identifying with the husband. And then I was like, wait, I should keep listening. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh, wait, I do not identify with him. Never mind. But at the very beginning, I was like, oh no, like, is this me? And then I was like, oh, never mind. This isn't about me. So, okay, if you feel that way, just know. Okay, just know. So you got to use like 25% more brain power just to figure out if this is me. Like, that's the problem with being autistic too, is like, you got to use so much brain power just to make sure they're not talking about you. And then you're like, wait, is this about me? It's like, no, this is not about you, girls. Okay, next. Oh, wait, Chat says I had a partner who I believe was on the spectrum, and I'm also neurodivergent. So like, willingness and communication was more important than in others. 100%. Yeah. 100%. Okay, now let's go to this story. Trigger warning, domestic violence. But what's interesting about this story is, again, communication, right? Is this a deal breaker in your relationship? Okay. Is this a deal breaker in your relationship? Here we go.
For not telling my wife about an incident? Am I the asshole for not telling my wife about an incident with her best friend?
Sketchy.
This one does need a trigger warning. It does contain talks of domestic violence. So if you feel that you can't listen to that today, please end here. We love you and have a good rest of your day. I want to be very sensitive when writing it here, but I have been dealing with unbearable guilt and wanted to know if what I am doing is wrong. I really do not want to trigger anyone, but I will be writing about a very sad situation. I, 33 male, have been married to my wife, 31 female, for 6 years, and we have a 3-year-old kid. We are very happy together, and I'm lucky to be married to a very kind and smart woman. My wife's best friend, Anna, fake name, has been living with us for the last 6 months. I wanted to talk about Anna to give a full context of why I'm making my decision. Anna is my wife's best friend since school days. Anna was living in the city with her boyfriend, and we live in the suburbs of that city. They seemed happy together and were in a relationship for 2 years. However, my wife noticed bruises on Anna's hand last year and asked her about it. Initially, Anna dismissed it as work-related injuries, but my wife kept on probing, and we learned that Anna was in an extremely toxic and abusive relationship. Her boyfriend lost his job last year and became extremely controlling and abusive towards her. He constantly accused her of cheating, Anna denies it, and made her link her phone messenger to his computer and started micromanaging finances.
Holy shit.
There was an incident of domestic violence that was the final straw, and my wife and I had to rush to the hospital to look after Anna. So fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Since Anna's parents are mostly absent from her life, my wife asked me if Anna can stay with us for a few days. We are 3 people living in a 4-bedroom house, and we have 2 spare guest rooms. I, of course, agreed to it and told her that Anna can stay with us as long as she wants. I think the incident completely broke Anna, and she would just start crying randomly and completely shut down. It was sad to see Anna in that state. She had to leave her job due to mental health issues and stayed at home in the room all day. My wife is very kind and took care of Anna like she was family and made sure she felt loved. Anna is also thankful to my wife and I for helping her in her worst time and helps around the house and with our kid, though we never leave him alone with Anna. Anna now is coming back to normal, smiles sometimes, and has started looking for a job again. Now on to the incident. Last Friday, my wife and I went to work as normal and dropped our son off at daycare. I had a doctor's appointment at noon and came straight home from there as I did not have a lot of work in the office. I made some lunch and then went to my room to sit on my bed and reply to all of the emails. Anna was in her room and I didn't talk to her when I came home. Around 2 p.m., I heard Anna's room door open and her walking in the hallway. Suddenly, our bedroom door opened, and Anna walked in topless and just in her underwear. I was shocked and not sure how long I was staring at her, but after a few seconds, I blurted out, "I'm so sorry," and she quickly covered herself with her hands. She was apologetic and started explaining herself. She said she just wanted to borrow my wife's clothes because her laundry was unwashed. It was super embarrassing to have a conversation with her in that state, and I looked away. She apologized again and then went out of the bedroom. The incident lasted less than 2 minutes. After a while, she came back into our bedroom, fully dressed, and apologized for the incident. She said it was really embarrassing and she did not know anyone would be home. I said it's okay, and I should have told her I am back early from the office when I did come home. She asked me not to mention the incident to my wife. She said she feels embarrassed she walked around the hallway without clothes and that I saw her in that state. I said it's okay, and let's forget about it. I have not told my wife about the incident, and it's been 5 days. It was just a benign incident, but I somehow feel guilty about the whole thing. I feel more guilty that I'm lying to my wife by omission of the truth. However, I feel that if my wife takes it the wrong way, it may strain her relationship with Anna. And I really feel bad for what Anna has gone through. I also do not want to make Anna uncomfortable in our house by telling my wife about her barging into our bedroom in that state.
What a good guy.
Am I the asshole in this case for not talking about this incident to my wife? I'm afraid that if Anna tells it to her first, it will make me look really bad and guilty. However, if I tell her I do not want her to blame Anna for any of this and not help her in her time of need, can someone please help me on how I can tell my wife about this? We have an update.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Am I the asshole for not telling?
And then I don't even have the update. Maybe I can go find it. But what do you guys think? Okay, just off the initial story. A deal breaker or not a deal breaker? Like if you found out your partner didn't tell you, right? What do you think? Let's see, Discord said my question in situations like this is always why not mention it? Walking around topless, almost naked when you think no one is home is not that big of a deal. Accidents happen. Do most people not do that? Deal breaker for not telling me. Let's see. Chet says I would be too weirded out to be naked in someone else's home. Are they visiting or was the naked lady in her house? She was staying with them. She was living with them because she was in a former abusive relationship and they were helping her out, right? Chet says, should have told her originally, not telling her immediately turns it into a funny mishap into hiding something. Yeah, I think it's interesting that we know what happened and the wife doesn't. Isn't that interesting that the internet now knows and your partner doesn't? Like, so, okay. This is a huge violation of my marriage. Not telling me something for 5 days or keeping a secret from me is a violation of our marriage. Okay? So keeping any secret, no matter how small, is a violation of our marriage, and I'm allowed to get divorced. Okay? That's just the rules. That's the rules of this marriage. No secret keeping. Because what kind of a secret could you have to keep it away from me? Like, there is no secret in the world you could have that I should not know about. And vice versa. Like, give me one. Think of it right now. Because I know some people, maybe not in my audience, but somewhere in the internet, is like, there are so many things you shouldn't tell your partner. Like what? Name one. You can't, bro. There is nothing you shouldn't be able to tell your partner. Nothing. I don't believe it. Now, there might be things you want to keep secret from a person who's not your lifelong partner, who's unhealthy, a person who's dangerous. Like, but that's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm thinking if you're in a healthy relationship where the person is a good person, like you're a good person, because remember, I married somebody who's a good person because I'm a good person, and we are having a good marriage because we're good people, then why are you keeping a secret from me? What in the world do you know that I shouldn't know? Okay? Kind of crazy. Okay? So the fact that he waited, and then, okay, the fact that it's her bestie. So then on top of that, why wouldn't you tell your bestie? Like, sure, our besties are not obligated to tell us things before they're ready. But if my bestie and my partner had a moment together, anything, why wouldn't they tell me? Because we have such a good relationship, why wouldn't it just be a funny story you tell? Or why wouldn't it be like, new rule in the house, no walking around naked, so we don't ever have to have this happen? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. Why would you keep this a secret? It doesn't make sense. Let's see, chat says, I mean, if it was an accident, why not tell the wife and laugh about it? Exactly. If it's why not just be like, oh my God, the stupidest thing happened today. We have to enact a new rule. No walking around naked. Like, I lived at one point, my sister was married at one point, and I lived with her and her husband, who we love. We love her husband, her ex-husband. We love him. And I lived with them, and we all grew up together. So we love each other. And we had rules in the house about like how we walked around and stuff. Also, my sister and I are very, very close. I mean, we have a very close relationship, and we were all friends. But we always had rules in the house about like, not making these mistakes. But also, I had a very close relationship with my brother-in-law. Like, he would literally be like, Brittany. And I'd be like, what? And he's like, frozen yogurt. And I was like, frozen yogurt. And then we'd like jump in the car and blast music and go like to get frozen yogurt together. Like, you know, we had a very healthy relationship. Like we still do, you know? And so it's one of those things where we were like buddies. And so we never even, it wouldn't have ever crossed our minds. Like I've known this kid since he was like 15, right? I never would have crossed my mind to like think about him in that way. But same with my best friends, like boyfriends or whatever. Like I never would have thought about looking at them as sexual. One, because we don't have the same taste. And two, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why. I don't know how y'all fall for your besties, boys. Like, ooh, your besties, man, is so off. My brain doesn't even compute it as an option. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know how anyone has this situation happen, but okay, you do you. So then, you know, same thing. If my bestie was living at home, my sister was living with me, and there was a moment, first of all, I would fully expect to be told, and then I would fully pursue to also make fun of people. But also there's a lot of like, maybe, what's the word? Like, maybe it's like, there's a lot of compounding factors. Like, the fact that they were both like, let's keep it a secret, or the fact that he was even able to say it, like, okay, did you guys grow up with adults in your life who said, if you tell me, my wife's going to know? That's the rule in our marriage. Like, don't tell me, my partner's going to know. If you tell me anything, I'm going to tell my partner. The only chance that, now, caveat, my trusted married partner, not just a guy I'm dating. If it's just a guy I'm dating, if it's just a girl I'm dating, I'm not telling them shit. Because that's not my partner. Even if I say they're my partner for ease of language, they're not my life partner. Again, life partner, if you tell me, they're going to know. If it's not a life partner, I'll keep your secret. They don't need to know nothing. You know, I'm dating them. They don't even have to know everything about me yet because we're dating. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, with their consent and their knowledge. So I think that's the other part that plays into this. Like, are you my life partner? Or are you just a person I'm dating? Because these are different things. And that's why we say don't treat a boyfriend like a husband. Don't treat a girlfriend like a wife. Stop treating the people you're dating as your partners. Because there should be different rules for these people. It includes people's private information. I can't just go around telling everybody I know about my friend's private information. You can't just be telling boys you meet on Tinder about your bestie's information, girls. Do you know what I mean? These are people's personal information. You gotta be, you know, have discernment about who you tell people stuff to. You know what I mean? So there's that part of it as well. But I think like there's this dynamic that people don't understand that I think is like really interesting, which is like there's more here than we're even seeing. Now they said there is an update.
Am I the asshole?
Hold on. They said there is an update, but I don't know if I even have it. Let me see if they posted it. Yeah, let's see. It looks like an update. I was not planning to show this, but I will now.
About an embarrassing situation that happened between my wife's best friend, who is currently staying in her house, and I.
It's okay. Keep
Okay,
going.
let's go.
We got it.
Let's see.
I was not sure how to bring it up to my wife, and you guys really helped me in a lot of understanding the urgency of telling my wife. I also got some cool ideas on how to bring up this subject without making it awkward for anyone. For everyone saying Anna was doing it on purpose, I did not agree with it, as I am an extremely average-looking person and women don't chase me. However, things since last night have been just crazy, and I think I am spiraling a bit. Sorry for the long post. I'm so scared now.
Oh my God.
Please don't be bad. Please don't be bad.
Oh, yeah. And the girl in the last post said like, oh my God, he's such a good guy. I don't know, girl. He deliberately kept a pretty serious secret from his wife. I don't know if I think that's not a good person. Well, not a good person. Let me rephrase. That is not a person I could marry. That you would even tell Reddit before you told me, I'm so annoyed with you right now. You told Reddit before you told me? That's not a marriage, girls.
So I decided.
And again, healthy marriage, healthy marriage, healthy marriage. Marriage to me is not just simply a contract. It's to say, and I understand people can change. I understand I'm open to divorcing my partner if they're ever abusive. But if we're looking at an ideal situation in which we are good people intending to be good to each other, there's a standard.
I told my wife last night as soon as she came home about the incident. I liked the idea of jokingly bringing it up casually so that we both can laugh about it and then forget about it.
No, you can't do that because now it's a lie. You can't make it a funny joke now because you've been hiding it. If you didn't hide it, you could have made it a joke. But now you can't make it a joke because that's the lie.
Last night when my wife came home, I made sure I stayed in our bedroom. I asked Anna if she could stay with the kids downstairs. As my wife was changing, I asked her if Anna still borrowed her clothes. Anna had to borrow them regularly when she first moved. Long story. My wife told me yes, and she told me that Anna can take anything from her closet if she needs it. I asked my wife if Anna told her about the funny incident from Friday. My wife said no, and I told her the whole story about how I came home early and Anna came into the room almost naked to get her clothes.
Discord said he's overthinking it, letting the anxiety build up in his head. That doesn't make him an asshole, but he should have said something. He turned a small incident into a big thing by his lack of action. Exactly. He turned something that could have been so small and not that big of a deal into something so big, and for what? But the problem started the moment someone asked, can you keep this a secret from your wife? And he said yes. Never in my goddamn life you asked me to do this unless it is something so unique. There is nothing you're about to tell me that I shouldn't tell my partner. And if it's that secret, don't tell me. Seriously, if it's that secret, don't even tell me. Because why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me something that I can't tell my partner who's an extension of me? Make it make sense.
And how embarrassing it was for both of us. As my wife was...
And less caveat, my friend says to me, I want to tell you something that happened to me that was really bad in details in which I don't want your partner to know the exact details because I would feel too embarrassed to be around them or I feel vulnerable, but you can tell them generally what happened. I'd be like, okay, yeah, for sure. Like if you feel more comfortable telling me specifically details of something that happened to you and you don't want me to then go relay every detail to my partner, I'm okay with that. That's not a secret. That's privacy and I'm okay with that. So that's different, right? Because that makes a lot of sense. But it's something like this. What are we talking about?
Listening to this, she completely froze and turned pale.
Uh-oh.
She started murmuring in Spanish.
Oh my God.
Which is her and Anna's native language. I don't understand Spanish really well, but I understand the words hombre casado and otra vez. I asked her if she was okay, and she sat next to me and asked me to explain everything in detail. I just told her it was nothing, and she must not have heard me coming in. I was trying to laugh it off, but my wife had water in her eyes.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. What the fuck?
Oh God, we're missing something big, huh?
I kept on telling her it was not a big deal, but she kept on asking me for more details. She asked me how Anna talks to me. I told her that Anna barely talks to me since she moved in, except for a few words here and there. My wife then asked me about 3 weeks ago when my wife had gone to visit her parents for 4 days. Anna did not want to go with her and stayed back. I told her that Anna was just acting normal. She and I would cook dinner after I got home from work while the other took care of the kid. Oh, that scares me. The only thing different was Anna generally spending her evening in her room. However, when I was sitting in the living room watching TV after the kids slept, Anna came and sat on the sofa next.
No, sorry, pause. You're not allowed to have a whole ass kid, family, everything, and not to keep a secret from your wife. You're stupid. And if you're this stupid, I can't trust you with my kid, let alone my marriage. I'm sorry, with peace and love, you're not allowed to be this stupid in my marriage with you. I'm sorry, that might sound really harsh. Ain't no excuse, bro. You're raising an actual child. Get your shit together. What are we talking about, though? Hello?
Me, but didn't talk to me. I asked her if she wants me to change the channel or stream something she likes, and she just said she wanted to get out of her room. However, she did not flirt with me or do anything unusual. I kept on telling my wife that it was just an accident, and I really did not understand why she reacted so emotionally to it. My wife refused to answer and just said okay and agreed with me. However, she told me I should have told her about the incident sooner and should not have kept any secrets from her, and gave me a big lecture on it. I told her I did not think it was a big deal and thought Anna would tell her, but glad I brought it up.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
After dinner, my wife messaged Anna to join us, and she came out. While talking, my wife brought up the incident and told Anna that I mentioned about the incident and that she does not need to feel embarrassed. Such things happen when we are all in the same house, and it's not a big deal. Anna was first taken by surprise, but then told my wife she was just scared to tell me because she thought my wife would judge her because of her past. My wife gave her a stare, and she quickly changed the topic.
Uh-oh.
We are definitely fucking missing something.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a post yesterday about an...
It's like these girls don't think about the scenario where the woman might have been with a married man before or cheated with somebody or might have been in a situation where this girl comes from a past where like funny business happened, or you might come from a conservative background where technically, men and women shouldn't be in the same house together. Like showing up topless in a bedroom in a house that's not yours, it's quite controversial, y'all. Like, Imagine they're conservative. Imagine they're from the fucking Midwest. Like, this isn't fucking Seattle, polyamory over here. This is probably some fucking normie ass couple in which, like, what do you mean you walked in on me? It's like walking topless in front of your friend's dad. It's like, yo, like, this is a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of a big deal, right? Something here like feels very, that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta, when shit like that happens, you gotta say something. Do you remember that episode of Sex and the City where Carrie goes to the vacation place in the Hamptons and the friend walks out with no pants on and Carrie goes, oh, and she like sees his Johnson and then she goes, hey, to the friend, your guy, Peter came out with his whole Peter showing. And the friend was like, Carrie, I think you should go home. And it was like a whole thing. Now, I never remembered a conclusion from that episode about whether or not Peter just had a thing about showing off, but that's the thing. You can't just go around flashing people. Okay. So even if it was an accident, this is a note to self that like you're in somebody else's house. You got to wear clothes. It doesn't matter if you think you're home alone. Do you know what I'm saying? But if it was simply just an accident, then she should never have asked her not to tell her friend. Because now it feels like you're taking advantage of this woman's hospitality. So this woman's letting you stay with her, your bestie. She's letting you stay with her family. She's helping you out in a crisis. She's letting you be jobless and all these things. She's really caring about you. And then your gift to her back is to lie to her. And not only lie to her singularly, ask her partner, who's the father of her child, to also lie to her. Nah. Okay, so pretty awful, right? Pretty awful. But why did it end up being this way? Well, for a lot of reasons. But this is why I say to you, like, I do think most people are settling and most people aren't having real conversations. And there is a confusion about, what to do in situations because we don't have the discernment. We don't have the wisdom. And I'm saying, let's get it, girls. Let's get that wisdom. Okay. Now, here is one more Reddit story. And then I want to give you examples of like bad relationship posts that I think are interesting. Okay, one more story once again. So when you talk about like having relationships, people's obsession with like, why is everyone single? Why are we in a loneliness epidemic? You guys are in bad relationships. Okay, we're in bad relationships, right? Chet said, wait, we're not going to finish it? Okay, well, the whole stream was not supposed to be about the story, but hold on. If you insist, I give the people what they want. I'm like Caesar. I'll crucify Jesus. If that's what you want, girl, Pontius Pilate, I'll make it happen. Okay? If this is what you guys want, I'll make it happen, girl. Okay, where's that crucifix? Here we go, girls. You asked for it. I give.
Asked my wife what the hell was going on. I told her to please not keep any secrets from me, and if she does not tell me, I will directly ask Anna about what her past has got to do with anything.
Okay, hold up. So this man is like, don't lie to me. You have to tell me. You can't keep a secret from me after he kept the secret from her.
My first guess was Anna might have had a thing for me before we got married or something, but my wife was very reluctant to answer and kept on trying to change the subject and cuddle. However, I kept being persistent, and she finally spilled the beans. Apparently, when Anna was in her early 20s, she was in a relationship with a married coworker who was twice her age. It was kind of a sugar daddy relationship, and he told her that he was in an open relationship, or that's what Anna told my wife. And he would leave his wife in a few years once the kids went to college. This makes sense now.
Well, how would he be in an open relationship if he's also planning to leave his wife? But I get it. This is why when your friends cheat, y'all think it's so casual, but now your friend has a reputation. If you're willing to sleep with somebody else's married man, why would you be willing to sleep with mine? I don't know why we don't understand this. Now, I assume that's not true for everyone. I understand why certain people, like, I have friends that definitely have slept with married men, but like they would not sleep with my married man. First of all, we like different men. And second of all, I understand why they did those things. Like the reasoning behind it is different. But the assumption is if you're willing to do it once, you could do it twice, which might be true, especially if you come from a belief system that says like, if it's true love, who cares? Or if we're meant to be, who cares? Or whatever else. So, but to be fair, I think it is fair to bring into question the possibility that in a vulnerable state, my friend who's going through an abusive relationship, who's in recovery, might feel like this male person who's been so nice to her might get confusing because maybe my friend isn't stable. I don't know. That's a possibility. And at the same time, like maybe it was just a genuine mistake. It was, but you know how he said in the original post, like it was 2 minutes tops? What took 2 minutes? Guys, if I set a timer right now on stream for 2 minutes, we would have the longest silence on stream ever. People would have to leave, right? Like 2 minutes is a very long time. It should have been 2 seconds. It should have been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so fucking sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. And turn around and you leave. What do you mean it took 2 whole minutes? That part seemed confusing to me. And he wrote this post. So he wasn't even talking and misspoke. He wrote it down and sent it, right?
Because Anna is very pretty, like Miss USA level pretty. And I never understood why she was single for most of the time I knew her. She eventually ended that relationship and started dating her boyfriend, Jim, who turned out to be the asshole. My wife said she suspects Anna was still involved with the older guy while in the relationship with Jim, which explains why he kept on accusing her of cheating. That is why my wife became emotional when I told her what Anna did, because she was worried Anna has no boundaries regarding married men. My wife said that Anna always looks up to us and praises me for being such a loyal partner and how lucky my wife is. My wife was worried initially when she brought Anna home, but her actions from time when my wife was away clearly showed that she respects the boundaries, and it must have been an accident. My wife told me she is grateful I let Anna live in our house and observe what a healthy and happy marriage looks like. Today,
is the friend kind of doing this thing though, where she's like, you could have a marriage like mine. And like, maybe if I show my friend what a healthy marriage is, she'll have one. But her friend is toxic. So like, it's not going to matter maybe. Like her friend sounds like she has problems generally. This is the warning. I can hear my mother's voice in my head. Never let a person live with you and your husband. I can hear her voice in my head right now. It's you got to be very careful about who lives with you. Okay? It can be safe, it can be good, but you got to be very careful about which one of your friends you let sleep on the couch.
Morning was even more weird. I got up early as I could not sleep well and went downstairs for a cup of coffee.
And that includes your siblings.
5 minutes, Anna walked into the kitchen and told me she was relieved my wife did not overreact to Friday. She said, I am a good husband, and gave me a hug and peck on the cheeks. She has never hugged me in the last 6 months. She seemed to be in a happy mood and was making small talk with me while having coffee. I cannot believe my wife did not tell me such a huge detail about Anna all these years. It's completely possible she cheated all through the relationship with Jim.
Jesus Christ, bro. So toxic. Everything's just weird. Like, that obviously feels like, yeah, Chess is pushing boundaries. Yeah, that feels like pushing boundaries. What do you mean she hasn't hugged you in 6 months and all of a sudden she's kissing you on the cheek? What are we talking about? It'd be different if they already had that relationship. It'd be different if they already were close. But the fact that they didn't have that relationship set up and then all of a sudden, she trying to be a third right now? What's happening?
Jim, and my wife is just covering for her.
And by the way, he's still at fault, bro. Don't even get it twisted. He's still at fault because he's the one who kept the secret from his wife. He's the one who's married. So they're both at fault for different reasons, but he is the most at fault for the way he betrayed his wife. Because he betrayed her in the worst way possible. He lied to her and kept something from her. He trusted her friend over her.
She even kept it a secret from me after giving me a lecture on how we should not have secrets. And I don't know what else she's hiding. Everything just seems very confusing at this point. I feel angry at my wife for lying all these years for Anna.
What just happened? How did the story get turned around? How is he now mad at the wife? Look, you have to decide in your marriage, how much does your partner need to know the details? Now, look, I'll say this. I'll say the fact that she moved a friend into their house without him having full consent is a violation of consent, right? You can't just move someone into my house and not tell me something about them. I do think she severely abused his ability to consent to the situation. So I agree with that premise, but I don't like the way he's twisting it right now. I think this just sounds like a very unhealthy couple in general.
I also now see Anna differently. I'm also worried that me trivializing the incident to my wife might have sent the wrong signals to Anna.
To Anna? You mean your wife?
Anna post.
Okay, I
feel fucked up.
I don't feel like that's lying to him by not telling him somebody else's information.
It's not really his business.
It's not his business.
That's like,
well, it is if they're in his house, though. You cannot bring somebody into your home around your children and your spouse and not tell them what's up. So you have to be very careful. This is not just somebody that they knew, right?
That actually like bothers me because when I confide in one of my friends and I like talk about something that I want to keep very I don't want to talk about anyone else with it. I never want them to go and talk about it with their partners.
Well, you better tell them that though. You better explain that to your friends and say, can I tell you something without you telling anyone else? Because you have to let your friend consent. Because again, sometimes I wish my friends didn't tell me shit. Because I'm like, great, now I have to live with the burden of the shitty thing you did. Don't tell me the shit things you do unless you want me to judge you. Because I also don't like that either, where they're like, you're my best friend, or you're my friend, or you're my sibling. Like, I should be able to tell you, you did a bad thing and now we can't even talk about it. I hate when people do that to me. Don't fucking give me this bad news and then not talk to me about it. We have to talk about it. You told me this thing. We have to talk about it. We would never have had to talk about it if you didn't tell me this thing. So you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about here?
Like, unless it's involving you directly, you know what I mean? Like, if it's just
There's
like,
a line.
yeah, if it's just my own, like if I'm talking about like something like a family member or something and I only want it to go to you, only you and you only, then I don't want you to go to Justin and discuss it too.
And it also
We got to get
depends on the gravity of it, where it's like, oh my God, like, I don't know if it's lighthearted and it was like,
yeah, no, I'm saying if I'm literally like, this is
Yeah.
a secret that I want to share with only you kind of thing.
if it's prefaced like that, absolutely not. It doesn't get
Right.
shared. At night, I asked my
Yeah, it just depends on like the relationship you have. Have you set it up? Like, again, you know what I mean? Yes, chat. Like, I'm not your priest, bro. Exactly, bro. I'm not your priest, bro. And it's so frustrating to me because people have the audacity to tell you they did something they know you think is morally apprehensible. And then they're like, hey, you're making me feel really bad about this thing I did. Why did you tell me out of all people this thing you did when you know it's strongly against my values? And then expect me to just be like, oh, teehee. Like with peace and love, obviously when we have the conversation, I'm much more compassionate and like, you know, down to earth and grounded when I have the convos. But emotionally, I'm pretty fucking annoyed with you right now, bro. I can't believe you just gave me this burden that shouldn't have been mine to carry. But also, now that you told me, if people say like, oh, is that friend dateable or is that person dateable? I'm like, nah, bro. You can't date them. And that's the other thing. They want to be able to do shitty things and they get mad that you don't recommend people date them. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the other part of it I don't like. I don't like it, Sam I am. I don't. Okay, one more Reddit story. Let's go to this one. This one's really interesting. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this.
Overreacting for getting upset. Am I overreacting for getting upset when my wife had another man in the delivery room?
Was the other man the doctor?
Last month, my 28 male wife, 25 female, called me in a frenzy telling me that her water broke and that she was going into labor. This was incredibly shocking to both of us because she was still early on in the pregnancy. The problem with this is that I was already on the road, about 30 minutes away from tending to my mom, who had just called me to tell me that she was in an accident. I later learned it's not a significant one, but it still shook her up. I told my wife to call an ambulance because I would not be turning around to drive her to the hospital and witness the birth.
What?
She yelled, cursed, cried, and screamed at me through the phone while I tried to calm her down.
I literally, as I was listening to this over my coffee this morning, kept saying, this cannot be real. But you just know it's real for somebody. But I kept thinking, this cannot be real, bro. Can I just say something to you? If your husband chooses their mother over you, you've got to divorce this man. If your wife chooses their father over you, you've got to divorce her. Like, you cannot choose your parents over your partner, guys. I don't, again, assuming you're in a healthy relationship, assuming this is the love of your life, assuming. If you're in a bad relationship, fine. But like, realistically, you are now the family. Your parents are their own family. And yes, you can be there for your parents, but you know what I'm saying? Hello?
By telling her to call my sister if she didn't want to call an ambulance, since my sister only lives 20 to 25 minutes away.
Bro, I imagine your mom is getting picked up by an ambulance anyway.
Or why don't you call your sister to fucking pick up
Go get your mom.
After this, she went silent and hung up.
See how their brains are like my brains? Well, if you can go pick up your mom, why can't your sister go pick up your mom? And then you go pick up your wife. And if your mom is fine and it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, hello?
Didn't hear from her for about an hour and a half. I checked my phone for the first time since getting to my mother.
Okay, see, note the language. I checked my phone for the first time since getting to my mother, which means he wasn't on call. He wasn't worried about his wife. He was prioritizing his mother for whatever fucking reason.
And my sister sent me a video of my wife actively giving birth while holding her male friend's hand, the way that women squeeze their husband's hands for comfort during labor.
Well, where were you, mother?
My sister immediately followed up the video with a text that said, "When are you going to get here?" I ignored this text and asked her if she's the one who drove my wife to the hospital, and she responded no. I then asked her, well, who did? And she informed me that it was my wife's male friend who lives 10 minutes away. He's the one that drove her, and he's the one who's getting his hand squeezed by my wife. I ended up asking my sister for the full story while I drove my mother back to her home since everything was kind of sorted out. Long story short, instead of calling my sister or an ambulance, my wife called her male friend, who I've always unliked, but I've never told her, to pick her up. I told my sister to get on FaceTime with me, but not make it obvious to anyone in the delivery room, and I would stay silent on the other end. During the call, I saw my wife's friend rubbing her back, wiping her tears, comforting her while she screamed and cried. I could not bear the sight, and I...
Wait, chat with the deets. Says this wife has posted her perspective on this one. He isn't telling the whole story. He has been consistently blowing her off throughout their marriage. Ooh, details in the chat.
Ended the FaceTime. I told my sister to inform my wife that I would be at the hospital tomorrow after work and whenever she was out of labor. My sister called almost 2 hours later to tell me that she was leaving the hospital and that my wife would be staying the night. The next day around 3 to 4 p.m., when I started to head over to the hospital to see my wife and my newborn son, she was trying not to hide her saltiness from anyone in the room. That included mostly my...
So he punished her by saying, well, I'll see you after work then. He didn't even call out of work and say, I had a baby.
Family and some of hers. When I asked her why she was acting this way, she rolled her eyes and told me to leave her the fuck alone in front of everyone. Later, when I tried to hold my son, she snatched him from my hands.
Mind you, she just faced death in order to bring a baby into the universe. And she's hormonal. And she probably pooped herself. And her hoo-ha probably split in half. So just mind you, this woman just faced literal death. Okay? Literally looked death in the eye and said, bring both of us to life again. Okay? And this man is like, why are you so salty?
When we were alone, I finally got the chance to have a conversation with her about why she's being so salty on a memorable day that should have been filled with joy and love.
Hey, dipshit, the memorable day was yesterday.
She responded by getting angry and mumbling something about my audacity to miss the birth of our child and the audacity that I'm surprised that she's angry. In response, I called her a cheater for inviting another man into the delivery room in place of me. This spiraled into a short, full-blown argument between us that eventually ended when a NICU nurse came back with the baby. It has now been a month since then, and my wife only refers to our son as her son. I've tried to get closer to her by sitting down and trying to have a deep conversation about our family's future, and she flat out told me that she was never having another child with me after what happened, which deeply hurt me. Last week, I heard my wife on the phone talking about who would be godfathers and godmothers to our son, and she told whoever was on the other end that she would be choosing her male friend as godfather because he was, quote, there for me when my husband couldn't care less. Let me know if I overreacted in the argument when I saw her in the delivery room after she gave birth, or if anyone knows how to fix my marriage or family.
You are a grade A dumbass.
Yeah, you underreacted to the birth and overreacted to your wife having someone there to support her while you weren't there.
Am I overreacting?
Like literally what? Like this was pissing me off so bad. I agree with chat. I was like, this better be fake. It almost makes me so mad it's got to be fake. But then you just know these toxic relationships exist. You just know this is someone's life. Yeah, it's got to be 8 billion people on the planet. This has got to be at least 1 million people's life. I you know what I mean? I hear birthing stories. Guys, birth is so fucking serious. Okay? Whether your mother was in an accident or you were giving birth, someone might have died today, and it might have been both of them. The question is, if both of them died that day, which one would you rather have been next to? And peace and love, I'm choosing my partner. With peace and love, respect to my mother, I'm choosing my partner. And that's the risk I think of when I think of pregnancy. You might as well be in a car accident, girl. Which is why I don't know why we're so casual about putting people through birthing. And I say this as somebody who witnessed her younger brother being born. I was there in the delivery room, girls. I saw what my mom went through. And I said, that's kind of crazy. Okay. So again, when we have conversations like this, I just think it's so interesting the way people automatically go by like, oh, but what about this? And like, what about this? Listen, okay. I get that his mom was in an accident, but wait, I want to hear this really fast.
Acting for getting upset when my wife had another man in the delivery room.
Was the other man the doctor?
Last month, my 28 male, wife 25 female,
28 male, wife 25 female. Okay, so they're young.
Called me in a frenzy telling me that her water broke and that she was going into labor. This was incredibly shocking to both of us because she was still early on in the pregnancy. The problem with this is that I was already on the road about 30 minutes away from tending to my mom.
So 30 minutes away from tending to his mom.
Who had just called me to tell me that she was in an accident. I
What kind of an accident?
later learned it's not a significant one, but it still shook her up.
Okay, so he later on learned it wasn't a bad accident. So in that moment he was heading to his mom, he might have thought, oh, she's in a bad accident and my wife's going to be okay. But the thing is like he didn't know. So it's interesting in that moment that he didn't call in his sister to go get the mom and like go to the hospital, right? And I guess what kind of an accident? I assume a car accident, right? I kind of have to assume a car accident. So it's like one of those things where, again, like, I get that in the moment he didn't know if his mom was going to live or die, but you also didn't know if your partner was either, or your child. You know what I mean? So I get it. It's a bad situation. Nobody wants to be in it. But can we not agree that you made the wrong decision? Like, you made the wrong decision? So I get in the moment he might not have had the wisdom, but the fact that he punished his wife for it later, the fact he didn't understand why she was upset, bro, she just went through one of the hardest situations of her life and you were literally deliberately not going to be there for her. Do you know what I mean? And you didn't even bother to stay on the phone while it was happening. You know, it feels like this is the problem with life is I need you to be the person who in a moment of an emergency, we make good decisions. Can you do that? Can we make good decisions? And that's the hard part of life. Do you have the discernment to make the right decision? Right? That's what I think I talk to my partner about a lot. We always have this conversation, like, in what way can we prepare ourselves to make good decisions when we don't have a long time to make it? Because it's easy to make the right decision when you have time to think about it. We try to give ourselves opportunities to think about and make sort of plans for like quick thinking. You never know. You never know. My mom was in a car accident once. She flipped like this, her van. She was pregnant with my brother. She was like 8 months pregnant. He went, her van T-boned. And I remember being in the home. I was really young. And I remember being in the house. And I remember the family, my uncle came. No, my uncle was babysitting and over for a barbecue with my dad. Everybody was over. Everyone was hanging out. Uncles, aunties. It was a big barbecue. And a family friend who was supposed to come to our house after church. My mom was going to church to pick up my brothers and she was going to come back home. So we were having a get together. I remember our family friend, he was, my dad opens the door, or my uncle opens the door. My uncle opens the door and he goes, what? And he goes, blah, blah, blah. She's been in an accident. And I remember my dad running down the hallway and hitting every wall on the way down. I just remember as a little kid watching my dad like if we hits every wall on the way down, just like rushing. He's like, watch the kids. Anyways, she was fine. Her pinky came off though. It was hanging by a little bit of skin. And she tells me my godfather, who's now deceased, God rest his soul, was making her laugh so hard. Her little brother was making her laugh so hard that it was almost painful, but her whole pinky came off. Anyways, she's okay. She's here. Anyways, the point is, in that moment, I remember, guys, I remember so clearly that day, or at least that moment of watching my dad hit every single wall on the way to grab his keys. I rushed to my mother's side. Yeah. You know, they reattached it, chat. She can't really move it, but they reattached it. Yeah, she has like a stiff little pinky finger, but yeah, they reattached it, you know? So she got to keep her little finger. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's just like, it's just nice to see people move into action, to see that they care, to see there's an emergency. I mean, if this story had been, I rushed to my mother's side and then I pulled it together. But the story was, I was rushing to my mother's side at the expense of my wife and our baby, which is why the story isn't cute. You know? Chess said, was she laughing so hard she got in the accident? No. She was laughing at the hospital. Her brother was making her laugh. My mom got in the accident. So my mom was driving. She had a green light and she was going. And the driver who was going to make a left turn, he went to reach behind him to grab a toy from his kid. This is the story, at least from the police report that my parents told us. As the father went, he looked behind him to grab the toy. And when he did that, his foot slipped and hit the accelerator. And so he hit his car moved, T-boned my mom, and then it flipped my mom's car. So he didn't even mean to go. He was at a red light. He just slipped. His foot slipped and it hit the gas. And he ended up hitting my mother. I don't remember what happened after the fact, but I think their insurance has just covered it and everything was fine. I mean, I think my parents understood he was a dad. He was doing something that parents do all the time. It was an accident. I don't remember them ever feeling resentful towards him, or I don't remember them ever saying bad things about him. I don't think they knew him. I think he was just a stranger at the intersection. But, it happens. What are you going to do? Right? Okay, now we move into a different transition. Okay? Of people who post their relationships online and they wonder why people hate their relationships and or them. This is a phenomenon I think is so interesting. Why are you telling us about your shitty relationships? And why are you sharing your relationship mistakes with us? Thank you. At least in this context. First story. Okay, here we go.
My fiance and I are getting married next September, and I bought him what I thought was the most perfect holiday gift, and he hated it. And this has happened before. I think I have about a week to try to convince him to love it. But anyway, I want to show it to you guys because if we do have to exchange it, somebody else should get these.
A peace and love girl. What is this recording? Damn, she's ASMRing over here. Like boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom. Like what?
He is somebody who does not adorn himself. He doesn't wear a watch. He doesn't like any logos. He wants to just be very, very muted in terms of his sense of style. And so I've been so excited for him for our wedding.
So do you hear that? He doesn't wear jewelry. He doesn't adorn himself. He likes it simple, pimple. Okay. He doesn't like to be flashy.
To give him some cufflinks because this is like the first and only jewelry type thing ever that I'm going to be able to get him to wear because you need to wear cufflinks with your tux. I wanted to get him something special. I wanted to get him something.
I don't know how she watched this video back and went, the audio is perfect. I'm posting this.
That seemed like him and fitting to our venue, and I wanted to get him something that wasn't crazy, that he could like wear whenever he wears tux. And I found this store, The Missing Link, in New York City, that has all sorts of vintage cufflinks. I think it's like, I can't remember the stat, but like the only place that you can get vintage cufflinks in the city. And his primary business, the owner, is actually to sell them to movie sets, like TV shows like Mad Men, like vintage cufflink type places. And I found these gorgeous 14 karat gold with, it's like, I forget what the stone is called, but this like very, very light blue, almost whitish gray cufflink. We are getting married in the Hamptons next September. It's going to be on the water. It's going to be gorgeous with the venue. And I could not wait to show. They're from the 1940s. Very, very special. They have the matching shirt buttons to go with. I did so much research. I went to so many places. Vintage versus new. I conversed with his brother who loved these, I thought. Anyway, Sam opened these and said, "What about me makes you think that I would like these?" Anyway, I'm hoping he just needs a little bit of time. We're going to go back to the Missing Link on Saturday and shop around. If you want to throw in the comments that these are, in fact, a neutral and they're not super loud, or you can just be honest, he thinks they're girly, let me know. Thanks.
Okay, so obviously, first of all, the audio in my ears was crazy, guys. Like, it was like, it was crazy. Nothing is worse than getting a gift that you have to fake interest in. You know what I mean? So that. Second, I always want to be grateful for anything people are willing to give me, but also, is this the gift you're giving me or giving yourself? Also, sounds like, she said Hamptons, they said vintage. She feels like she probably comes from a wealthy background. It kind of feels like not even a love marriage. It feels like a convenience marriage almost. Like, do you love your man? Is this love? You know what I mean? I don't get it. Also, maybe because I am autistic, I don't care like that he said what he said. Maybe he means it different. But I think it'd be like, what about me makes you think like this is what I would like? Like, getting somebody a gift that they didn't expect is a very hurtful feeling. Like a gift that doesn't make them feel seen. It can really hurt people. Yes, there are good ways to respond and otherwise. Like, but also they're posting this video on TikTok, so now I know about it. It's one thing if he said that in private and they talked about it, right? And but the fact that she posted the video is kind of crazy. And if this is like, is this his Christmas gift? Like, yes, it's a wedding gift, but is it also his Christmas gift? That's why it feels weird to me. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? I'm glad that she got him a wedding gift. I think he would have minded, but a Christmas gift? And so it just feels like weird. Like, you know what I mean? I don't get it. It just feels like what I couldn't, maybe if we won't know, but maybe if they got 2 gifts, you know what I mean? Like get him a gift for his wedding. And also, but then, okay, what if she's the kind of wife that won't let him dress the way he wants for the wedding? Like for our wedding, though it was quite tiny and everything, we went suit shopping for a while, tried on a bunch of suits for my partner, got a bunch of different styles. We tried on so many cool styles. It looked great in all of them, honestly. I was like, bro, honestly, I want to get you all these suits because they're beautiful. We should get all of these. But like we settled on one that they really liked and they thought was like going to work for the wedding and be like kind of, an aesthetic that was pleasing to them. And I wanted them just to feel comfortable. I was like, whatever is going to make you feel good and make you feel like you showed up today, because like I'm wearing my ideal dress. I want you to wear your ideal suit that works for you and that makes you feel comfortable. And we looked great. Like I thought we got ready together. It was so romantic. And then his parents picked us up and we drove to the place and it was so cute and his friends were there and it was so nice. And I just felt like we both felt really good that day because we like got to pick out our clothes. We got to really do, pick out our, and so the question is like, if he feels they're too feminine, then he feels they're too feminine. They're not for him. Maybe he should deconstruct that. Maybe he should ask himself why that is. Is it because they're just genuinely too feminine for him? Or is it because he's, homophobic? I don't know. He's a misogynist, but like if they're not his style, they're not. So she got him a gift he doesn't even like, and they're not even the style he likes them in. Like, why are you posting this on the internet? Why do I know about this? I don't know. I think again, I don't know if this is my autistic brain identifying with this idea of like, why'd you give me this gift? This isn't what I wanted. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Like, why did you get it? If it was just a mistake and you genuinely thought I would like it, I would like to know why you thought that so we don't do this again. But, maybe because my partner and I do talk to each other and we tell each other those things, like, it's like if you're like, I've done this to my partner before. Oh, I did this to my partner recently. My partner had told me that if I went to the store to get this specific snack, but I didn't actually process that like he had asked for a specific flavor. So I went to I happened to be at the store. It was a bakery and I was like, oh, what do you think he'll like? And I didn't have a way to contact him at the time. So I was like, I'll just get this because maybe he'll like it. And he was really excited because in his head, he remembered that he had told me days before. And in my head, I had forgotten. Oopsies. I had forgotten that he had told me. So in his head, he's like, oh my God, she remembered what I told her. And then he opened up the pastry bag and he's like, and I was like, oh no, I fucked up. I felt so bad. I was like, what did I do? He's like, oh, I thought you might have remembered. I was like, oh, I did not remember. I am so sorry. I did not remember. So here I was thinking like, oh, it's a surprise. He didn't expect the thing, but also he was thinking I remembered. And it was like, so anyways, like, of course it's going to feel like, oh, and then, we talked about it and it was fine, but it was like, I felt like that Mickey Mouse story, I always feel like that was like, Oh, yes, a negative 10,000 billion trillion partner points. Oh, I felt, guys, the way I noted to myself forever. You know what I mean? Forever. That I will try to remember as much as possible all of his favorite flavors and snacks. So even if I forget, I won't forget the point, you know? And that's the point. That's the effort we go to say, okay, I'm going to remember exactly in detail the exact flavor you like. And this goes back to that. You remember that Reddit post we read about the chocolate cake story? How he wanted a chocolate devil's food cake? And then his girlfriend at the time made him devil food cake but put vanilla in it. And he was like, again, he might have thrown a tantrum about it in the Reddit story, but like, if your partner asks you for something and doesn't get it exactly, it, yes, can feel bad. It can feel bad. Yes, Chad said I ordered his meal so confidently, but it was wrong. Oh my God. One time I was so autistically, it was like, this is genuinely when people are like, do you guys fight? I was like, no, but when it comes to food, it's very personal. One time, we were so tired. We'd had a really long day, like the longest day you've ever had of just like adulting. And it was, my fibro was angry and everything was a mess. And we had accomplished all the adulting we had to do. So we wanted to reward ourselves with dinner. And I wanted French fries. I wanted fries so desperately. That's all I wanted. So we went to a local burger place. I said, please order me some fries. I really want a fry and I want this burger. Okay, this is before I was plant-based. I really want these fries. I can't wait to have these fries. And he said, I got you. And I was like, cool. And I went to go pee. And I sat down at the table and we're happy and we're like this. And all of a sudden the fries come and I'm like, and I'm looking at it and it was a kind of dish where it was fries, but it had like sauce on it and like meat on it. And I was like, oh. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, and the waitress was like, what? And I was like, nothing, never mind. Cause like the food's already ordered. But I looked at him and I was like, not to be autistic, but I think my whole life is I think I'm gonna shut down. And he was like, and I looked at him, I was like, I just wanted fries. He's like, they are fries. I was like, this is not fries. These are not fries. He said, but they are fries. I was like, they're not fries. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm about to have the worst mood. My mood's about to switch. It's about to be like, I'm about to feel like my dog just died. And that's sometimes what it can feel like. Okay? Like yes, chat, I'm bad at the expectation versus reality thing. I try really hard not to psych myself up, right? Like that I have an expectation, but like, so I have that brain that when my brain is like, this is what we're getting, and then it's something else, my brain's like, and by the way, this is like a biological experience. I mean, it is felt in all of my body. It feels like I just got the worst betrayal ever. I mean, call me guts because Griffith just betrayed me. You know what I mean? Like, it is so deeply an embodied experience of betrayal. And I know I know it doesn't make sense. And I know, and we can communicate, and that's why we're married, that I can say, I love you. It's okay. I'm going to feel very upset for a while. But I know it's not real. Like, I know it's a real experience I'm having, but I know you didn't mean to do this. I know you weren't maliciously doing this to me. And then they go, okay. And we we make it through. We get through it. But it's real. Like, it's physically happening to my body. It is physically happening to me. And so I have to just sit there and wait for it to end. So we have like rituals or tools around coping with the feelings. And we'll just say like, oh, I'm going to need like a few minutes. Hold on. Let me process this information. And we try to come up with ways because we know, and that's what I mean when I say like, I'm in a loving, communicative relationship. I'm in a non-blaming relationship. If I was in my past relationship, that would have happened to me and my partner would have said like, you're crazy. Like you're literally a mentally ill person. And then that would have cycled even more. And then I would have self-harmed. And then he would have been like, see how you're the problem, Brittany? You see how you're the problem? And now in my marriage now, that doesn't happen. It's more like, I love you. I'm so sorry. This was not my intention. Do you want me to get you regular fries? And I said, no, you already bought these fries. We should eat these fries. He's like, are you sure? Because I can just get you regular fries. And I was like, no, it's okay. We're going to eat these fries because I don't want to waste money. I don't want to waste food. It's okay. And he's like, okay, but next time I will make sure to get you the right fries. And I said, thank you. I love you. And like, that's what it is, right? It's a genuine attempt to notice the problem and to fix the problem, right? Versus the blaming, you know? Yeah, Chad said, this is why knowing diagnosis is so important. I agree. Like, I really think for me, having a diagnosis also frees my partner up from the burden that like, this isn't we know what it is. We know what to call it. We know what's happening. And we know like, this is the disability of it all. This is the hard part of it all. This is the part that, you know, you don't always get to introspect through. The good part about introspection is it allows me to identify it, know what I'm feeling, express it. It allows my partner to extrospect, to observe, to relate it back to themselves, to not take it personal, to also say like, okay, not a big deal. Let's get through this, right? And I think like, this is why it's so important for you just to know what's up with your partner, to really genuinely value their thoughts and their preferences and their whys, you know? And it's been such a journey, and I'm so grateful to be in this relationship, which is why, once again, if I could get you all into high compatibility relationships with people that really value you and see you. So when these situations come up, they don't sit there and also self-harm with verbal abuse and make you spiral more. I mean, girls, I was in my 20s when this shit happened a lot. And now I have an explanation for it. Now, of course, everyone thought it was BPD, and maybe it is, but I'm pretty sure that's just autism. Like, I'm pretty sure that is the autism, right? That doesn't feel like BPD to me. I'm not abandoned because I didn't get fries. This feels like I had an idea of what I wanted. This isn't what I wanted. This is what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. I feel like an autistic kid that like their parent tried to teach, feed them broccoli, and I wanted my chicken nuggets. And I was like, this isn't my chicken nuggets. This is not my chicken nuggets. This is broccoli. I want chicken nuggets. That's what it feels like. I feel like those kids, I see those videos and I'm like, I get it, kid. Me too. Me too, kiddo. And I know someone somewhere is like, you're an adult, eat the fries. And I did eat the fries. But I still felt how I felt. I still felt how I felt. You know? You know what's crazy? Looking back, you know what's insane? I had a brother who went through this phase where he refused to eat anything but calamari because he's like, no, nothing tastes good. I don't like anything else. And he would just eat calamari or whatever. My parents would just let him. So like, hey, at least he's eating. And I look at my parents now and I just think of how adaptive they were, even though they would never admit that I have autism, probably. I haven't told them. They were just pretty, my dad makes this really famous tomato soup in the family. And he makes it with pasta. And he knows always to pour my bowl first because he knows I like my pasta al dente and like not as cooked as everybody else. So he always pours my bowl first. He knows I don't like sauce on ribs. I like sauce on ribs sometimes, but most of the time I like them without sauce. When he makes ribs in his famous barbecue sauce, he always makes my plate before anybody else's and gives me the non-barbecue sauce plate. And without even knowing it, those are the ways my parents validated my sensory and preferences for food in ways they won't even know and understand. You know what I mean? And it's stuff like that that goes such a long way in relationships and friendships, is to say, oh, one of my besties does not like tomatoes. So when I order her food, I just go, no tomatoes. Make sure there's no tomatoes in this. And that's us going, that's us making an effort. You know what I mean? It's us just saying no, she doesn't like tomatoes, no tomatoes. Or I have a brother, same thing. He doesn't eat tomatoes. I'm like, don't put tomatoes on there. To know a person's preference, to know a person's, and it's not just a preference. It's not like, oh, they'll eat tomatoes if it's there. No, it's not a preference. It's like they will not eat this burger if there's tomatoes, or they'll have to take it off. So it's just to make the effort goes such a long way, right? And that's love. Love is not doing it for the social points either. I do not remember my friends' preferences or my friends' sensory issues because I want brownie points. I do it because it's the right thing to do, right? So I don't want them to be like, I always remember your order. It's like, okay, I want you to do it because it's just good, right? It's just a good thing to do. Okay, now, next TikTok. Here we go. Once again, why are you putting this video on the internet? Okay.
I had plans to make black beans, And then I decided to ask my man, hey, can you please take out a pack of black beans and put them to soak in water? This was super early. And I just get home hours later. Has this happened to anybody else? Like, please let me know.
Okay, look, I'm sure she has sweet intentions, but why would you post this on the internet? Why do we need to know this? You know what I mean? First, why do we need to know your partner's incompetent? And also, why did you think this would be relatable in a good way? Because she's in these comments fighting for her man. So I'm on the side of TikTok that's like women complain about their husbands and then fight for them in the comments. The way I would never fight for my partner in the comments, which is why I don't post my partner. Because if I have to fight for them in the comments, I'm doing something wrong. Something has gone terribly wrong. Okay? Why are you sharing this? Okay? Again, why are you telling this to me? I really feel like people really are in relationships where they think like, oh my God, that's so cute. And I'm just sitting here like, you're living my nightmare. Thank you. You're literally living my nightmare. Don't share these things with me. Gross. Okay, next. Without it being that big of a deal, look, the man didn't kill somebody, okay? He put some beans in he defrosted some beans wrong. Or he got some beans wrong. Well, he was supposed to soak the beans because they need to be soaked for a long time. And they're not going to soak through the bag. Okay, no, actually, I'm getting angry thinking about it. In order for the beans to soak, they have to touch water. And you left them. No, now I'm mad. No, now I'm mad. I was trying to be like, okay, no. It's inexcusable. It's worse than when your mom calls you and says, take the chicken out of the freezer and you didn't do it. I can't tell which one's worse because the chicken can be defrosted. You can't defrost beans. You have to soak beans. So no, actually, I take it back. The beans are worse. You know what I mean? Yeah. The beans are worse. I said defrosting the beans. Obviously, you don't defrost the beans. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, absolutely not. And just, I'm mad now thinking about it. Okay, now. Third video to show you. Ready?
Tell me if I'm being petty or not and how I should respond to this. My husband and I were getting ready for a party and I asked him if there was anything that he thought that I looked good in. And he said, no, because recently you haven't been trying. So there really hasn't been anything that you've looked good in. Is that something that I should be upset about? Because I feel like it's been in my head for several days now. And honestly, I can't stop thinking about it. Okay, you tell me.
Wait, Discord said actually you can frost the beans for prep after soaking them. I guess I learned something new. What is you can frost them, like freeze them over or defrost them? Are you making a joke? I'm too autistic now. You can defrost the beans. You can defrost them, but you mean after you freeze them, like because they're hard beans and you have to soak them in water, right, to get them. So you mean by freezing them and unfreezing them? Is that what we mean? What do you guys think about this also as well? I want you to hear it after freezing them. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, listen to this.
If I'm being petty or not and how I should respond to this. My husband and I were getting ready for
Listen to it one more time.
A party and I asked him if there was anything that he thought that I looked good in. And he said, no, because recently you haven't been trying. So
recently you haven't been trying and there hasn't been anything you've looked good in. So there's an event and she's going to the event. She says, what is the best thing I can wear to look good? And he said, basically nothing. Okay. Look, guys, I assume the beans were hard beans, not canned beans, right? Not beans from a can pre-cooked, but beans that are raw that need to be soaked in water and then cooked. Just for people who are asking. I don't even know how this is acceptable. Like my brain broke listening to this. Like, how is this acceptable? How is this acceptable? One more time.
And I were getting ready for a party and I asked him if there was anything that he thought that I looked good in. And he said, no, because recently you haven't been trying. So there really hasn't been anything that you've looked good in. Is that something that I should be upset about?
And then I feel like, if I remember correctly, she's also fighting for herself in these comments. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, people are telling you to get divorced, find a good therapist. You can try to work on it. You should be upset. Let's see. I think this kind of stuff breaks my brain genuinely. Like, it really does break my brain where I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like, what are we genuinely talking about here? Like, I don't even know in what bubble this is appropriate to talk to your partner like this. I'm trying to think of the scenario, right? Like, what is the scenario? Yeah, he was resentful. I think he resented her, which actually is pretty common. Fun fact, it's actually pretty, I don't want to say like, I don't know how common, but I've heard from women that it's pretty common for people to expect their wives to bounce back within like a year of pregnancy and to like go back to the original weight they were. And when they don't, there's like resentment that builds up, right? So it's kind of like strange to me how you could marry someone who believes that. So that's the question. I knew a girl, this was in high school though. I knew a girl who dated a boy in high school. So they're kids. Okay. They're minors. Who was like, I expect my wife to bounce back within 6 months. And I was like, and this is the man you have a crush on? I mean, he's a boy, so he's not really even a man. But I always wonder about that. Like when you're dating, do you make it clear to that person your expectation for quote bouncing back after pregnancy? Yeah. And Chad said you are praised for getting your body back. Oh, it's like so societally ingrained. Oh my God, I can't believe you had a baby. You look amazing. You don't even look like you had a baby. And you know what's so crazy about that? Is that if we really deconstruct what that means and pull it apart, it's obvious the implication is because pregnancy is so hard on your body, I can't believe you bounced back. And that should make you pause and say, wait, why is it such a big deal that I bounce back after pregnancy? Oh, maybe because you risk death every time you do it? Maybe because it literally destroys your fucking body? Like that's why the implication of, oh, you bounce back is to say that, oh, you're the exception because pregnancy is so hard on your body. And then people are out here glorifying pregnancy, not telling anybody any of the true details of pregnancy. You know how many horror pregnancy videos I've seen on TikTok where girls are like, I did not know my teeth were going to fall out. I did not know I was going to lose my hair. I did not know. I found a new girl. God bless her. She's sharing. She's so wonderful. She shared that like she has a prolapse. Intestine prolapse, like her intestines are coming out of her. So her kids like will be like, mommy, why do you have like poop coming out of you? But it's a prolapse. You know what I mean? Like it's from pregnancy and the doctors are trying to figure out how to fix it. And I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like all these things we don't talk about, you know, and that's a real medical problem, right? That's a big problem, right? And it's stuff like that. We're like, yeah, we got to learn about these things, right? We have to learn about these things. We have to be honest with people about these conversations. We have to tell people like, this is a very big deal to bring a baby into the universe. It's a very big deal, you know? It's just, we're so casual about things that are so serious. So, okay, the reason I wanted to do this segment with you is because we've done this time and time again, especially on this channel. We'll continue to do it, right? Why are people in a loneliness epidemic? Why are people struggling with relationships? We're struggling with relationships because these are the bubbles we exist in. These are the constructs we grew up in. This is the way we're coming to the internet and confessing like, hey, is it weird? Does anyone else have this problem? Not only are you not alone, we should reassure you, but it's also horrifying that you're not alone in this in a sense. Because at some point, what are we going to set the standard being? You know how to defrost. You know how to vacuum. You know how to clean. You know how to do XYZ. But that also comes with teaching your children step by step how to do these things. And children aren't born with this knowledge. We have to run away from this idea. We have to just run as fast as possible from this idea that kids will just simply observe us and learn. Kids will not simply observe us and learn. Kids will simply observe us and come to their own kid conclusions about what they're observing. We have to teach them. Now, here's the problem. How do you know what you're teaching young people is the right way? Great question. We will continue to debate this forever. But at least let's start with the basic, or the basis of teaching our kids literally, explaining it to them and not taking it for granted that you know what it is. So you don't have to run into a guy you date in your 20s who doesn't know what paper towel is. Do you know what I mean? Because why do you think grown men grow up and never learn how to wipe their ass? Nobody taught them to do it as a child. Okay? Why do you think you grow up and meet people who don't know how to defrost a chicken? Nobody taught them. Nobody taught them, right? Chad said he could at least Google it though. Yeah, but why would you Google something you didn't know was wrong? That's the thing. We should teach people to Google. Actually, now that I've dated, I'm married to a Googler. We're both Googlers. That's the other thing. Why didn't you Google? Why don't you Google? You have to teach people to Google. Use your phone. That's what it's for. Go to TikTok. Actually, you guys ask me this all the time. Brittany, can you help me with food recipes? Brittany, can you help me with this? Guys, go to TikTok. Google. Where do you think I'm learning it from? Google. Go to TikTok. Look up recipes, vegan recipes. I did it last night. I wanted vegan tuna sandwich. My partner was having a tuna sandwich. I was like, I want a tuna sandwich. So I looked up vegan tuna sandwiches, and then I gave them a food list, and I'm very excited to try it this weekend. I wanted a tuna fish sandwich, but vegan. And I was really excited. I'm going to try it this weekend for the first time. I'm sure it's going to be great, right? You got to Google. You got to research. You got to make a list. You got to find other people that are doing it. You're not alone in the world. Yes, chickpea tuna. Yes, Discord. I'm doing chickpeas. I have seaweed. I have all the spices. I'm excited. I'm stoked, bro. I'm excited. So the reason I wanted to cover this is, one, I knew it was going to be interesting for us. But two, it's just using real people's lives to learn more about our own. Okay? Using other people's lives to really learn about our own. In which way do these relationships apply to your own? In which ways do you have to ask yourself some questions? And this goes with relationships with friends as well. Again, friend relationships are just as important. They're a different kind of important, but they're just as important in many ways. Not all friendships, but the close ones. And you have to make sure that you are seeing each other and understanding each other and on the same page as each other, or naturally you will grow apart. And so the loneliness epidemic will continue, and everyone will continue to be confused on how it's happening. But hello. And then remember, it always starts with you, your relationship with self, and then your relationship with others. Okay, in order to have the best relationship with others, we must also have a good relationship with self.